First time I was in a tattoo shop, I'll never forget. I was on tour with my high school ska band.
This is Champaign is also a band podcast. One songwriter, one song. I'm Sven, your host for a journey into the music of Champaign, Urbana. Recorded in the Blue Box studio with a songwriter from the Champaign, Urbana music scene, past or present. Champaign is also a band podcast is proud to be a part of the Champaign Showers Podcast Network. Welcome to Champaign is also a band podcast. Today, I have Vincent Aguilar from, I have Vincent Aguilar. And you may know
From around town, yeah.
From around town. But you may also know Vincent Aguilar from such bands as Urban Sprawl, The Risk, The Night Brigade, Vincent Aguilar, which was an acoustic singer-songwriter folk punk project, Sweater Weather. Oh, good. I said that first. Yes, perfect. Okay, Horrible Things, Press Your Eyes, In Prose, Forced Isolation, Need, The Please and Thank Yous, The Valenteens, Earth Girls, Sword Swallower, Lagoon, Daisy Glaze, Dream Probe, No Masc, which is actually spelled M-A-S-C, not M-A-S-K, just for clarity's sake. Vincent is currently in the band Power of Dusk. So, Vincent, welcome to the show.
Yeah, sweet. Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
So, today we're going to be listening to your song, Emma Lee, which you performed with the Valenteens. And this is off of the single, Emma Lee, backed with the song Later. Without further ado, let's listen to the song. Welcome back. So, I guess, as always, my first and favorite question is to ask, what came first? Was it the music or was it the lyrics?
The song, it would be 9 years ago at this point. It's a little hard to say. It's one of those things where I think they both, yes, that's what it is. One of those things where they both kind of came together. That was one of those things where they both kind of just synced up. And usually when it happens, I'm thinking of lyrics, the melody is already kind of there. Sometimes the melody, I could hear the guitar melody already playing in my head. So I think for this one, it was sort of just the chicken and the egg all together coming out at once. So when that happens, it usually ends up being like a song I really like the most of the
Right.
songs I write. Sometimes, like, 'cause you do it both ways, but when it kind of all just comes together at the same time, that's usually a song I'm like, oh, that really did come together really nicely. That's one of those.
Was this an easier song to write because of that, or do you usually? I don't know. I guess that not that that's a personal question, but it doesn't. I don't mean it in a way that's rude. But like, do you usually struggle to put the music and the words together?
Yeah, it can. I mean, it depends on. Yeah, it definitely can. So in that sense, it was easy, very easy to write because it kind of just happened. The other ways, you know, you come up with a guitar line or song structure first, and you're trying to think of ways to pad it out with lyrics and stuff like that, or you come up with lyrics and a vocal melody, and you're trying to figure out, you know, trying to hash out the guitar stuff after that. And sometimes are easier than the others, but you're trying to accommodate one based on the beginnings of another. So when it does come together pretty quickly all together, like this song, it's just way easier. Like almost kind of springs forth from somewhere in the back of the head, and all of a sudden it's out there, like fully, mostly complete song. Like, oh, that's it. I just gotta refine it now.
Was there a particular line that like came up that was kind of the impetus of like how that came together? I know that it's 9 years ago, so it's like hard to put that back together and think about how you did that.
It was sort of a combination of, I came up with the name later, like Emily.
Yeah.
I came up with that later, but that I don't see DDD was there, sort of the seed, I guess, and then said that might not last for long, sort of came quickly after that. I think it was the chorus was sort of the beginning there, the beginning of the melody where the rest of the song anchored. So
yeah,
it sprung from there.
The ascending, but you're coming up the neck of the guitar, doing the chords in that song. How did that come about?
I'll be kind to myself and say it was heavily inspired and not ripped off.
It paid tribute to?
Yeah, there's this band called Henry's Dress, which they have a song, Target Practice. I feel like if you listen to that song, it's not the same, but you'd be like, oh, okay, that's very similar, sort of just driving guitar, the same four chords over and over and over and over. Different sort of rhythm there, but that was sort of like, I want to do a song like that. Took a little more inspiration than just writing a song like that. Kind of took liberally, I guess, but while not ripping it off completely. I tend to overcomplicate songs.
Wow.
Writing in one way or another, lyrics or guitar lines or chord structures, this, that, or the other. So I really wanted to challenge myself in a way, like just strip down, simple, easy, just repetitive, strip down of a song as I can make it. And I was really inspired by that. Henry's Dress, really wanted to start moving towards that sort of simpler sort of songwriting. And that's kind of where it came from. One
of the things that I love about punk in so many ways is there tends to be not very much nonsense. It's just like straightforward. It's this weird combination of like abstract and concrete, because lyrically there usually isn't a ton of exposition. It's straightforward. It tells you right what it is, but it doesn't necessarily give you everything that you want. And I feel like this is a prime example of something that's like within the pure punk ideals, if you will. Does that make sense? Or
no, it does,
okay?
And that's exactly what I was trying to do with this, in the sense of, because I just, prior to this band, all the bands I had been doing or writing music for was still punk, but a little more, more exposition is the perfect way to say it. I still tried to strip down song lengths, but with this, just really just barely any lyrics. How can I get away with repeating lyrics often in a way that I usually don't without making it sound too repetitive? How few chords can I play in a song while still sounding sort of dynamic? Not making it too short where it's like not a song, but also not drawing it out where it draws out its welcome. So yeah, that's exactly sort of the stripping it down thing I was going for, which I've been sort of moving away from prior to that. So sort of getting back to what makes a song interesting.
When you talk about stripping down the lyrics and having things be repetitive, the more that I actually do this show, the more that I recognize how repeating almost is its own signal in a way. When you come back to a certain part that you had sung before, you have the whole song that came before it, and therefore it sometimes recontextualizes it.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me that you have a first section that includes the line of, if it's all in my head, I guess I'd rather be long gone. But then you do the second section and it says, I guess I could never convince anyone. And then back to that part when you say, if it's all in my head, I feel like you have a new context to what the if it's all in my head is all about. It's like, because what, did you end up not being able to convince anyone else, including yourself, that it's if it's all in your head?
I like that because it's sort of one of those things where it's like, I'm not really thinking about that at the time, but that's sort of why I like the fun thing when it comes to writing lyrics or writing songs, just sort of the meaning you can give to it after, which I do all the time with lyrics I write or something like that. It just kind of comes out and then I recontextualize what it means after, or whatever sort of happy accidents make it into something completely different than what I thought it was when I made it. Sort of doing it just to do in the moment, and then later being able to look at it and be like, oh, that did kind of work in that way. That's kind of cool. I'm going to keep it like that. Yeah, I'll say that. Yeah, I like that.
You had the line bouncing in your head that said, I don't see da da da. When did you bring the Emily portion of it? And I'm sure our audience wants to know, is there an Emily?
So the name, I didn't want it to be anybody specific. Like, I didn't want to say, like, oh, this is the girl I dated before, let me use her name. No, I don't want to do that. Like, that's kind of weird to me, personally. So I just thought of, I don't think I knew any, I might have known an Emma or two at the time, but I definitely didn't know any Emmylys. So I was just trying to think of, like, a name that was not specific to anybody that I knew, while also sort of Emily. It's like Emily, right? Like the one name Emily, but it's not like a cipher for like an Emily that I knew, right? I didn't use Emma space Lee to mean like a Emily.
Right.
It's just, I was trying to think of, I don't know, what's a person's name that sounds kind of distinct or different. So instead of, I was like, I don't know, Emma space Lee, whatever. It sort of is stand-in for somebody, but at the same time, I didn't want it to be, oh, this song is about this girl or whatever, because I just wanted it to be more broad, open. Of course, it's inspired by recent things I was going through at the time, but I didn't want it to be just, this is a song I wrote about this one person. So that was the other part of it too. General, writing this song, general, open, sort of specific, but not about anything, one thing in particular, to keep it as broad as possible.
Whether you create a person from your own experience or create a person as an amalgamation of all these experiences that have brought to that point, one way is no better than the other, but it is interesting to find out where it was generated. How did you bring this to the rest of the band? Like, did you just have your guitar and sang? And some of the really distinct character to this is the drumming that's coming in.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. So, I mean, it was something where I probably had the beginnings of this song maybe a year and a half or so before it actually got to a band. It was one of those things where I was talking to my friend Chris at the time, who plays drums. So long ago, I barely remember, but it was sort of something where it's like, I don't know, you want to play music together? And we both love the band Henry's Dress, and a lot of bands like similar of that style. There was a band, Boy Racer, and we were sort of introducing each other to all these sort of 90s and 80s alternative bands. Shop Assistants was another one. Really stripped down, noisy pop bands from the late 80s and 90s, and Slumberland Records sort of stuff from that era. And I don't know, we could do something like that, right? So I don't know, maybe mess around. He knew a friend of his named Kyle, who plays bass in this band, Valenteens. So we all kind of got together, played some Henry's Dress covers, and started coming to write songs for ourselves. This was the first one that, I already kind of had this beating around in my head, so this was the first official song we wrote for this band. So kind of one of those things where the drummer did all the recording, really hashed out the songs, and did the drums very specifically in his own way, very referential to the bands that we were interested in, and also sort of, I guess you could say, the production produced. I made my guitar sound how I wanted to sound, but he helped guide that along.
Right.
Did the mastering and the mixing and the recording in a way to really draw everything out together. One of those things where him and I got together and just like, well, let's start a band. I guess this will be the song. So
I usually say, like, what's my favorite part in this song, but I just feel like from beginning to end, it just has this, like, grittiness that I really like. I mean, that's the part I think it's like maybe more of an essence of the song is what I like. And so I guess from what I'm kind of hearing is also this seemed like a very pivotal song for you. Like, this was something that got the band going and like was your direction. What is your favorite part of this song?
Well, it's exactly how you said it, the essence of it. So I mean, every little not to be pretentious about a song that's under 2 minutes long with like 3 chords, but it's the production of it, the way that it starts with a little feedback right at the beginning, right before the chord. There's no part of the song I listen to and I'm like, well, that could have been different. It just sounds exactly how I want it to sound from beginning to end. The little details and stuff like that, feedback here, sting here, the way it rings out at the end, it all just kind of comes together. I'm usually pretty critical of my vocal abilities. I was really happy with my vocal melody too, and keeping together during recording. So that is the thing I like about this song. And the reason why I chose this song, I say this truthfully and not to be any sort of arrogant or weird or whatever. It was hard to choose. I like the songs I write. There are multiple bands where I've written a lot of songs, been a primary songwriter for a lot of bands, a lot of the bands I've been in, and there's a lot that I like. Then I think about certain things, certain songs for bands I've done. It's like, I really, really liked how I did the lyrics here, or this vocal melody, or I really like how all the instruments kind of came together, or I really like how the bass sounds here, or like how that, like, these 2 guitar leads playing next to each other. Really, I could look at a lot of songs I did and be like, I love this element, or these elements, or this, that, or the other, or I like this song overall. This song with this band, it's just exactly what I want it to be, this song, and the recording of it. Like I said earlier, I tend to overcomplicate things. As time went on with this band, I started to complicate things more, which I didn't think is bad. It's just was a little bit more complicated than the beginning with this song. 4 chords, 2 parts, 6 lines,
right? Something
like that. And I kind of just had it from the beginning with this song. Never had to refine it. It just kind of came out. We recorded it. I still listen to the recording, and I'm just like, yeah, that's exactly where I wanted to sound it. There's no part of it where I'm like, I'll kind of just ignore that part for all the other great parts that I like. So, or in other songs that I really like, or that I've written, or this, that, or the other. So I just thought this is a perfect middle ground in every single way: guitar, bass, sound, drums, lyrics, vocal melody, production. It just kind of hits in every single way. Maybe other songs I like certain guitar noises more, or certain lyrics more, or certain vocal melodies more, but once again with this one, it just does exactly what I want it to do. I wish I could write a uncomplicated song like this more. So
right,
yeah. So
I don't know. I was thinking about this today, and I don't know if it was specifically to this fact, but the balance of simple. Sometimes it's a lot harder to write a simple song than it is to write a song that is complicated. It's like, it's here after bridge number 2, we go to this little coda that goes to here. That's only like half of the. And sometimes, well, I think of this mainly when I try to write drums, and I usually write them like MIDI-wise, so I'm programming drums. But when I try to program drums simply, I'm like, no, that just sounds dumb. It just repeats and repeats, and it's super simple. And then when I try to be like, okay, let's juice it up just a little bit, and I'm like, okay, why is it doing this little stupid thing that's like, it sounds like you're trying to play out of the pocket for no reason. And it's like, it's cool, quote unquote, but it's not. So I think that's something that I really admire about this song, because it like it hits all the points. It does what it needs to do, and
then it's gone.
Know, it's a very clean, intentioned song.
I have a difficulty writing simple, so even if I'm writing really fast punk songs that are still under a minute and a half long, I tend to put a lot into it. So it's hard to it's really hard to write simple without it just being repetitive, or really hard to write simple and dynamic.
Right.
So
yeah,
for me,
like,
for
where's
me,
it gonna go?
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Champaign is also a band. Podcast is proud to support Exile on Main Street. Exile on Main Street, located in the old train station building at 100 North Chestnut Street in downtown Champaign, has been helping to build record collections since 2004. Carrying a wide array of new and used LPs, CDs, and video games. Exile on Main Street has something for just about any music enthusiast and old-school gaming devotee. Exile also hosts regular free live music shows on its stage, so be sure to check out their Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages for the up-to-date details on the next upcoming event. Open 7 days a week. They can be reached by phone at 217-398-MAIN. That's 217-398-6246.
Welcome back. So, Vincent, do you have a favorite venue in Champaign, Urbana? It can be past or present, of course.
Past. I mean, I probably played at that house that was on, oh boy, went by so many names. Started at Shangri-La, Dingbat Dungeon, and then I forget what it was called after that, but I was over by the strawberry fields there. That was probably the house I played at the most, so I guess sort of default to that, yeah, because it was get janky.
Yeah.
Get janky there, for sure. Played there with many bands, and then when I finally moved here, did shows there and played there some more, so yeah, it was probably the most consistent one to me, yeah.
What drew you here to Champaign, Urbana?
So I moved here 5 years ago in August, and living in Chicago before that. A person I was dating at the time, she really wanted to go to grad school. This was an option, and we're both kind of tired of Chicago anyway. The program she wanted to go into, there's a really good program for that at University of Illinois. I was over living in Chicago, and so we kind of scoped this out. And I knew a lot of people from here, having gone to college at ISU and playing shows around here when I was in college, and being in a band that was based out of here for a few years. And so I knew a lot of people here. I was pretty familiar with Champaign. I was like, yeah, if I'm going to move and still be in Illinois, this seems to be as good of a place as any. So she ended up wanting to go here, and we moved from Chicago to here. So we stayed separately. But yeah, I stayed. So
let's talk about your venue. I mean, maybe I don't want to maybe give it the grand title of it being only your venue, but it seemed that you ran Casa de Shasha.
Yeah, I mean, it was. Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, yes, it was mine. I mean, my roommates were the various roommates I had who went in and out. Not that I had like tons of roommates people coming in and out, but I mean, I lived there for 2 years, and then it was mine, all my PA equipment, and I set everything up. And I had some help for sure, but everything was mine, so planned by me. So
the name Sasha was your corgi.
Yes.
The thing that I want to ask, because it seems like it may be the missing piece in the musical sauce that is our Champaign Urbana music scene, is, do you need to have a corgi in your life in order to be a musician in Champaign? There's quite a few Champaign Urbana musicians that I know that have corgis, and I it's just, and they're very, they're, I don't know, what is it about? I'm sorry, this is off topic, but what is it about corgis?
Here's what I'll say about it: you don't have to have one, but if you want to be good, you need it. So I mean, it's just the plain truth. I don't. It just is what it is. So sorry.
So what is it about corgis that, or did you specifically get Sasha because she was a Corgi?
I like the breed a lot. I've had that breed. I had started when I was in high school, right before freshman year of high school, when we got our first one. When I moved out of my mom's house after I graduated college, a couple months after I graduated college, she got another one, a puppy, which was Sasha. And then she had to eventually rehome her because she was fighting with my other Corgi. That was how I got my Sasha. You see them more and more often in the past, I'd say 6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it all stems from a lot of, especially people around my age, we all like the show. Generally, if you liked Corgis and you're around my age, you liked that show, Cowboy Bebop, with the anime Corgi. So that's exactly where I got it from. So
I did not even put that together.
Yeah,
and so I'm curious. So there's going to be a live action of that. Oh my gosh, we're totally going off topic. But there's the live action of that. Are you excited about that?
I'll watch
at all?
it.
Or, okay.
I'll give it a try. I'm neither excited nor pessimistic.
Gotcha.
If it's good, it's good. If it's not, I won't watch past the first episode. So
let's talk about like running a house venue, a house show, or like, have you always been into running house shows? Was this your first house venue?
No. I've been doing this for a while. Well, I remember. I mean, in high school, I played my first in Woodstock, Illinois, and then I booked my first one my freshman year of college. I was in the dorms, so I didn't live there. 18, 19 years old, booked my first one at a friend's house in Normal. So I didn't live there at the time. No, you know what? It was, sorry, it is.
No,
this is how I work. I focus on unnecessary details to other people. It was my sophomore year, first semester, because it was in October. One of the bands was half Normal, half Chicago. One of the bands from Champaign and two were from Chicago. So it was not a smartly booked show at all. But the only local band was from Champaign. That was the first house show I ever booked. Did more shows at my friend's house after that, and then eventually moved into a house my junior year where I did shows and always did it after that. Been doing it consistently ever since. So,
what do you think is a good way to run a house show or to book for a house show?
Responsibly. I don't like you care, like you care about what you're doing. I say that knowing that, especially like the first house that I run, especially the first few. I think about the first show. Oh my god, it worked, but I did not pay the bands enough. Like I know, like it was a badly booked show. Like the spread of money was not smart, and I made a mistake. I growing pains, learning stuff after that, But I mean, the best way to do it is just to try it, of course, but also to be invested in what you're doing. Right. Not just be like, oh, I'm going to have a fun party where bands play and, I get everybody together and then it just kind of happens. No, you have to actually be a functional, like, you don't have to be like Overlord, but do more than just, I don't know, I'm just going to get people together, see what happens. No, you ask everybody for money. You are helping bands, like, quote unquote sound check. You are charging appropriately and hassling people for money so people get paid, so it's to be present. The best way to do it is to be present and aware as much as possible.
But I feel like one of the things that is kind of integral to our music scene, and I know it's not just Champaign Urbana, but house venues in general, it's important that people realize that it's not like a normal venue. You're not going to a bar to drink and then possibly hear music. It's like you're going to a venue to hear specific music, I feel like that's one of the best things about a good house show is that if people come to those shows, they're there to hear music and experience something new, and it's not the focus to, just drink or see your friends. It's more about, well, and maybe you're there to see your friends who are playing, but
I think for plenty of people who do go, a lot of it is to be in a social setting and hang out, and so for whatever reason somebody goes to a show, like if it is more of a social event than perhaps seeing bands. Like I don't begrudge anybody to do that as long as they're paying me money to be there. to be perfectly honest. Paying me money so I can pay the bands, I should say. Not paying me money. Giving me money to give to somebody, somebody else.
Yep.
As long as they do that, and they're not giving me static on that, I don't care why they show up. But even then, even if they do that, even if they are like, oh, all my friends are going to the show, I don't really know who's playing, but I'm going to go too, and oh yeah, I'll pay the money. Even if you're going there not specifically to listen to music, you're going to be assaulted by it.
Right. Yeah.
You can't really escape it unless you like go outside and are having cigarettes, drinking out in the backyard or whatever, what people do. But I mean, it's a little more to get out of it than if you were at a bar or something. You can phase it out more if you're at like a quote unquote real venue or bar, more than you can at like a house show.
This is the question that has arisen during the pandemic. What to you makes a good music scene?
That's a hard question. I think it is just people. I don't know. I don't want to overcomplicate it either. It's people who are interested, people who want to check things out, supportive people who are supportive. It's good people who make it. Basically, I think this is the simplest way. Good people, good supportive people. I don't know. Yeah. Multiple local bands, but that goes back to good people and interest.
What could Champaign Urbana do better for the music scene?
It's hard to say right now because what is music scene in Champaign Urbana? What is a music scene anywhere at this point? It's sort of this thing where we were in this sort of stasis for a year and a half, like a butterfly. We're coming out of our cocoon slowly, being like, okay, it's not toxic or whatever. Like I can come out and, you're coming out of your little fallout bunker and being like, oh, okay, like things seem to be calmed down. No, like mutants rolling about or whatever. I'm going to come out and see what's going on, and maybe interact with more people. Maybe more things will happen. And, you saw people dipping their toes into playing shows more. And then now with the Delta variant going around, it's just sort of, and now with mask mandates in Illinois as of a couple days as of this recording, or tomorrow as of this recording, now that's another step to being like, well, maybe not, so like,
right.
It was sort of a thing where a couple months ago it was like, oh, we could do something, like we could start dipping our toes and doing stuff outside and this, that, or the other. And maybe we can think about, oh, maybe it's not the end of the world to have something inside, with considerations, or start slowly moving towards that. And then now it's just sort of like, oh, nope. Like shrinking back, like, oh, I guess we'll wait a little bit more. I mean, maybe not everybody feels that way, but I know for me, and I know for enough other people, that's where it is. And when it comes to local music and DIY music stuff, there's the resource pool of people is small. So if a third of those people don't really feel like going out at all, or going out with considerations, I mean, it really digs into what you can do. Yeah. Because there's a difference between doing something and having 20 people at your event and it being totally worth it to have it. 20 people outside of bands or whatever. Difference between 20, 30, 40 people at your event and then 15 or 10 or whatever. So,
yeah.
And I know for me, I don't know what can make it better because there's nothing you can really do, unfortunately.
Right.
So I wanted to get back into booking and playing shows, getting my band more active. My goal was to do a benefit show end of September is what I was thinking. And I was kind of trying to poke around, think about it, see where I could do it, maybe who can play. And then this Delta started happening. Mm-hmm. It's just like, I guess now is not the time. At this point, I don't know when would be the time. So, right, I mean, kind of to go on a long tangent, I guess, off of what your question is, what we can do better. It's just like, I don't know what it would take for there to be a music scene in Champaign, like an active music scene, because to me, it's hard enough to run a show as it is. It's rewarding, but in the moment, I'm not really having a lot of quote unquote fun doing it.
Right.
I like it. I want to do it. It's rewarding. It's great when I'm watching bands, but all the stuff around it is not, I wouldn't necessarily call fun. It's not always a hassle, but I might not call it fun, right? So like taking money, kind of refereeing people, or this, that, or the other, hosting, whatever. And there are people out there, I've been seeing people have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I mean, we'll do stuff outside. Or now I see people doing more like, oh, you have to be vaccinated to come to the show. Like, you have to wear masks and this, that, or the other. And I'm going to be honest, I don't want to deal with any of that. None of it.
Right.
Nope, I don't. Not only because that is, at that point, too much effort for too little return. It's hard enough to get people to go out as it is. When you're ready, being your security for your show, being like, oh, where's your mask? And then being like, oh, I don't have one. Okay, well, you can't come in. And then, like, cuts down, some people come in. Or they're like, oh, I really can't come. My friend's playing or whatever. You know, you get in that static. It's like, at that point, what's the point? And also, too, for me, it's like, and this is just a personal opinion. I don't judge anybody who chooses to deal with, I'm going to book a show and make it masks and make it vaccine required and this, that, or the other. But if it's necessary to me, if it's necessary to have a mask in a setting where you're around a lot of people, it doesn't make sense to me to get people together.
Right.
Certain kinds of music accommodate it better.
Right.
You know, you could have your like folky, sort of rocky kind of stuff where you have people kind of sitting and kind of relaxing and milling about, and they can just be kind of, maybe if they're standing together, you know, kind of just not packed on top of each other, but certain things where it's like people are packed right in front of the bands playing on the floor and there's this energy. It's not conducive to having everybody wear masks, because if you're trying to wear masks, I mean, you shouldn't be close to people, right?
No.
Supposedly, allegedly, I mean, which I agree with, but so it's just like, I see people be like, oh, we have these shows with masks or whatever, and then I see a bunch of videos of all these people with masks on shoving into each other and crowd surfing. I'm just like, I'm taking myself out of this conversation,
right? Yep.
And I'm just not going to do it.
Right.
That doesn't make sense to me, so I'm out. And I feel like a lot of other people are like that.
Yeah.
So some people are fine with dealing with that, and power to them for dealing with that. But until that requirement on vaccines or masks is no longer a thing, and you can just sort of reintegrate with people, I really don't know what a music scene really looks like. Maybe in 6 months or whatever, when it's still a thing, it's like, well, we got to figure something out. You know,
Yeah.
I guess this is just how it is. You know, maybe you can reevaluate, and I'm not saying the only way that for a music scene to happen is to go back to how it was before, because, I mean, what's that mean? I don't know. You can argue there's no way for that to go back completely how it was.
Even in the midst of the current coronavirus pandemic, the Jubilee Cafe is continuing to serve packaged, home-cooked meals free to all every Monday evening, 5 to 6:30 p.m. Meals are available for pickup outside the 6th Street door to the Community United Church of Christ in Champaign, Illinois, 805 South 6th Street. Jubilee Cafe's mission remains the same. Feed hungry people by cooking healthy and delicious meals. We are open to anyone who cares to receive a meal. For information on the meal or how to volunteer, go to the Jubilee Cafe CUCC Facebook page or email us at jubilee.cafe@community-ucc.org.
Welcome back. So, Vincent, what is your favorite non-musical thing or things?
It's pretty easy for me. I'm a tattooer, so tattooing. It's plain and simple. That's my favorite non-musical thing. That's what I do.
I'm assuming that you got a tattoo first and then said, I want to do this, rather than the other way around. Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. To be honest, that's really the only logical way you could do that. Absolutely. I mean, really, the music and tattooing, I mean, this goes hand in hand for me and for a lot of other people. I mean, there's so many tattooers who started out in punk scenes and music scenes, like so many musicians and bands whose job is to tattoo. So tattooing and DIY, especially punk music, go hand in hand together. So, and that's how I got into it. I mean, my first 2 tattoos were bands that I really liked. And the reason I wanted to get tattoos is because first time I was in a tattoo shop, I'll never forget, I was on tour with my high school ska band the summer before I went to college. first time in a tattoo shop.
And what's the name of that?
That was the Risk.
Okay.
And we were on tour with my other friend's band, also from our same high school. And shared some same members as well. And that was the first time in a tattoo shop. We were in Pittsburgh, and I don't remember the name of the place. My 17-year-old friend really wanted to get a tattoo on his wrist. To rep like some that symbolized something with some other friends of his or his brother's friends or whatever. So we were laid up in Pittsburgh. Our show kind of didn't really happen. Sort of up in the air, sort of weird thing. So it was like, well, we're in Pittsburgh. What we can do? My friend Kevin wanted to get a tattoo. We just went into a random tattoo shop. This was before a smartphone. Well, I mean, I guess we had somebody had smartphone, but I mean, we pretty much all had flip phones. So we just found a tattoo shop, went in. My friend Kevin got a tattoo. Wasn't supposed to because he was 17, but the guy was just like, "You're 18, right?" Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that was my first experience at a tattoo shop, and it didn't really make an impression on me then because I really wasn't interested in tattoos at the time. Most of the stuff I'd seen about tattoos beforehand, even at the house shows or the shows that I played around with people who had tattoos, it didn't really resonate with me. I didn't really notice. But the reason why the first time I ever went to a tattoo shop was I was on tour. When I went to college and started meeting more and more people who were in local music and were doing house shows and normal and were in local bands and punk bands and stuff, like a lot of my older friends, they had tattoos. Like, and I was like, oh wow, these are cool. Oh wow, I'm actually really interested in these. Like, that's cool. And also, too, to be honest, like I was interested in the aesthetics of it all too, right? So it's like my older friends who I'm inspired by, like a lot of them have tattoos, and they didn't do it to fit in, but this is the aesthetic I'm going for. I want to get tattoos too, so that's cool. First 2 tattoos were band tattoos, so that's kind of why I got into tattooing, was through playing music and meeting people who had cool stuff. So, and then it sort of snowballed from there.
When did you say, you know what, this is what I want to do? Like, when did you say, I'm going to pick up the what do you?
The pencil. The pencil, primarily the pencil. So for me, it was the pencil. So it's always funny when people ask me, like small talk when I'm tattooing them. Oh, you've been drawing, your whole life, I'm guessing, right? No, not at all. I was living in Chicago, 23, 24, something like that, and I was working in food service. I got a degree. But I didn't want to do a career in the field. I got a degree, and I wanted to move to Chicago and play in bands and travel and tour and have fun. And I was doing that to an extent, and I was having fun seeing a lot of bands play, seeing a lot of shows, getting to tour when I could with the bands that I was in. I was working in food service. For what I was doing, I was making pretty decent money, moving up or whatever in the jobs that I had to higher positions. It's sort of one of those things where it's just like, especially after I got my dog, it was kind of like, I had more and more responsibilities, more bills to pay, more this, that, or the other. It's like, well, at first, I was going broke buying tattoos. I never got to the point where like I have no money, but it's like I would get my paychecks, I would make sure all my bills were paid, had groceries and stuff. I'm like, all right, I have like I have $150. I'll get a new tattoo. I'll be fine, and my next paycheck will hit pretty soon. I'll be fine on this small amount of money until the next paycheck. So, and then I got to the point where, no, I need to have some money. I need to have some money in case something comes up. And then so I was like, I need to have a little bit of savings, whatever, this, that, or the other. I can't just spend all my money on tattoos and then be like, oh, car trouble. Oh, gotta go to the vet. Oh, gotta do this. Oh, got to do that. Something broke down. Some this, some that. Oh, my guitar broke. And it was like, these things would happen. I was like, I can't be so worried about money anymore. I can't come back from a tour and be stressed because I was gone for a week, and now I have to make up that week of not having, like, I needed to figure something else out because I was going to be in food service the rest of my life otherwise, one way or the other, unless I did something else. Well, what's something else I could do? I don't know. I'm heavily tattooed. There's a lot of things I liked about the culture of tattooing that I chose, the aesthetics, the kind of tattooing that I liked and that I was interested in, and the history and this, that, or the other. If I could think of anything else I would want to do, that seems pretty cool. I can't draw, though, so I started trying to learn how to draw when I was like 23, maybe. I don't know. Just like, well, this seems dumb. I don't know how to draw. Like, I'm 23 years old. I don't want to get into tattooing. That's stupid. But it's also like, well, if I don't try, it's definitely not going to happen. So, long-term goals. So I was like, well, maybe if I get to 30 and I don't do it, then maybe I'll do something else. But yeah, I just started trying it, and eventually I just got my opportunity. So But yeah, I was basically trying to figure out something else to do, trying to think of what else I liked. And yeah.
The process, though, for learning to become a tattoo artist is you take kind of an apprenticeship, correct?
That's the traditional way to do it, yes.
And that's what you did,
That's
correct?
what I did, yes.
Yeah, so you started learning with a mentor.
Yes.
Do they call it a mentor?
Yes.
And so it's not like you can just... typically you can't just jump in. Maybe you can, but...
You can. I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it, but the traditional way is to do an apprenticeship. And there are plenty of people out there who choose not to do that. The unfortunate fact is not everybody who takes apprentices has their best interest in mind. It's a hard thing to get into, and it's a hard thing to get into right, and it's a hard thing to get into where you're not being taken advantage of. And there are plenty of people out there who's like, I'm just going to do it and practice with my friends for a while, and eventually I'll get good or not, or I'll move on to something else. And there are plenty of good tattooers out there who eventually did come out and become good tattooers without doing the apprenticeship thing, and they're well regarded or respected in some way. To me, the most efficient way to do it, and the way to do it where you're getting all of the you're learning all of the lessons ahead of time, you're being guided through instead of learning the hard way of mistakes, not picking up bad habits, is to get an apprenticeship. So with a mentor who treats you well, which you might think it's going to happen at first, and then you get into it and it's like, oh no, this is not, like, this person is not doing right by me. Thankfully, in my case, great.
There is the potential in any artistic endeavor for people to take advantage.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I mean,
the power dynamic is heavily weighted in one way, right?
Yeah.
So it's easy for somebody to do that intentionally or not.
I'm sure that there is a wide variety of like styles, genres almost of tattoos.
Uh-huh.
And how would you characterize your style of tattoos? Like, I see it seems a little traditional.
Quote unquote the American traditional sort of style, which translates to usually bold lines, or at least clearly defined lines, bold colors. Some people might say cartoony. I would say stripped down and easily recognizable, where it's something you look at and it's like a skull looks like a skull, a dagger looks like a dagger, a rose looks like a rose. You don't have to think about it too much. The thing about traditional tattooing is you're breaking tattooing down to its basics. You get line work, shading, color. Design is what it is. You can do their fancy tricks you can do in this, that, or the other, but the thing that attracts me to traditional tattooing in a similar way that, like, I don't know, punk music does, is that it is stripped down to its core roots, and the core of it is really focused on to make something pure and easily recognizable. It's sort of the same thing. You're talking about making a simple but catchy song that doesn't overstay its welcome. That's sort of the goal with traditional tattooing, something you can get done in a half hour or an hour or more if it's a larger piece or whatever, but get in and out and have something nice at the end of it that looks like what it is.
Now here's my own little Q&A about tattooing, but like for larger pieces, do you do multiple sessions?
Yeah, I'll do as many sessions as somebody wants. I will do whatever somebody wants to do, basically. Even if somebody wants, for larger pieces, if you want to sit for 3 hours for a 3-hour piece, or then 4 hours before one tattoo. I haven't been tattooing for very long, so I haven't done like I haven't done too many large projects that take hours and hours and hours. I don't think I've quite hit something double digits in terms of hours for a whole tattoo. If somebody wants to sit for 4 hours, great, we'll do it. But if somebody wants to take a 2-hour tattoo and turn it into 2 1-hour sessions, that's fine. Okay. I'm happy to break it down. And I mean, even there's one tattoo I've done that was like an hour long. Somebody did 15 minutes for the outline, and we did another session that was 45 minutes of shading. So, I mean, if somebody wants to do it like that for whatever reason, that's fine.
Okay.
So
I always thought it was like based on a process of the skin healing, but you're saying it tends to be more about what a person can take in terms of one being time-wise, and then also just being
endurance.
comfortable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, money and time, which they go together. And then someone's like, I only have this amount of money to spend on this tattoo today, but I want to finish it another time when I have more money. Especially for larger projects like sleeves or large anything that takes multiple hours. It's like, we only have the money for the outline today. We'll get it rest done later or whatever. Or it'd be like, oh, I thought I could do this 3 hour, 2 hour, 2.5 hour, 3 hour tattoo on my ribs in one go, or wherever. It could be wherever, but I can only get an hour done today. So I would say it's mostly due to how the person takes it. I've definitely stopped sessions before. Yeah, I've definitely done a thing where it's like, I guess we could keep going. We've been at it for a while now. You could do more. You have the money. I have the time. I'm feeling all right. You're feeling all right. But we don't need to do it like this.
Right.
So even if we could finish it, do a longer session, a 5 hour session, 6 hour session, 4 hour session, if we're at like the 2 hour mark, a 3 hour mark, and it's like, well, we're probably, to finish this, we would need to do way more. So why don't we just stop now while we're feeling good?
Oh, yeah.
Because that's the other thing I like to tell people when it comes to tattooing, especially when it's something uncomfortable, a place that hurts a lot or a large project. It's like, nobody needs to be a hero. I'm getting my back piece tattooed, my full back. I do about 2.5 hours at a time. Could I stand for more? Sure, and it probably would lead to the back being done sooner. Like I could do a 4 hour session, but there's no need to put myself through that. There's no need to put the tattooer through that either, because for me, I'm extremely empathetic. And it's hard. It's hard for, not everybody, but it's hard for a lot of tattooers to hurt people for that long.
Right.
Some people don't care as much. It's tough to do that to somebody, especially when they're in a lot of pain. Like, I could do like 2 hours and someone's struggling. They can still do another hour, but they'll be squirming the whole time. It's draining. There's so many factors as to why you would want to break it up. We can leave on a good note, So
yeah, you sorry, you sound like a therapist too in some ways, right? Like,
yeah.
We're working through some shit, but both draining for us, and
psychology is a huge part of tattooing, even if you're engaging with it intentionally or not. So it's an endurance run for sure. A lot of emotions.
As an untattooed person, but I have so many friends that swear by getting tattoos, like how there's an addictive thing about it too, that not in a negative way, but it's just like when you get one, you just feel like you want another.
Well, it's the thing where two things happen. It's one is after you get your first one, for somebody who is potentially interested anyway, you break the seal, right? There's no way to know what a tattoo feels like, or if you can take it until you get your first one. After you get your first one, it's like, oh, I can do this, and that maybe even if it felt bad, I'm done, it's over, and I like what I have. I can do that again. Whether it's next month, next year, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, whatever, next week, sometimes. What else you got? You have more time for another one? Some people are like that. But after you get your first one, you realize, I can do this. And now it's like, oh, I have actually all these ideas for things I might want to get. This seems more of a reality than like a pipe dream. And then the other part of it is, too, it's like people who like tattoos, like typically they like how a lot of tattoos look. So it's like once they get their first one, it's like, oh, I know I can do this, and I can do this again, and I want to just start filling up. And especially the more you get, especially if you want to be a person who maybe not even heavily tattooed, but like I want to have a full arm of tattoos or a full leg of tattoos. You start getting more tattoos, and it's like you start to see the empty spots.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I want to fill that.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to call it like a failure rate, because I don't think that's right.
Sure.
But how many people start getting a tattoo and you're just like, nope, that's it?
Not very many. I can think of, there's only once in my career, in my time, my relatively short time of tattooing, where I've tattooed somebody and we finished and they stopped before the tattoo was done, and that's it. And like there was no coming back and finishing. Like that was it. That was my first walk-in tattoo on somebody. So the first time I was able to do a tattoo on just a random person coming in that wasn't my friend. Not only was not my friend, but wasn't an appointment made. My first random and I sort of knew who this person was. He was known to the shop. Just came in like, I want to get a tattoo. I can do it. Did an outline of a rose on his chest, and he was first couple lines. He's like, I don't think I could finish this. And granted, I was slow at the time, very, very, very early. I never tattooed a chest before, but at the same time, it was like, really can't finish this? I don't think I can finish this. It's just the outline. He had tattoos, plenty of tattoos, but he just never. He was just like, all right. I mean, we'll get through the outline, see how you feel. But I feel like it's not that big of a tattoo either. I mean, I know it took a long time at the time, but got through the outline. Didn't want to finish it. Never came back to get it finished. So that was the only time. Ever since then, even when people are struggling to get through a tattoo, if it's a larger piece, it's like, okay, you're struggling. Let's get to a point where we can stop, and it makes sense to want to do this. For example, this 3 or 4 hour stomach tattoo. It makes sense to do it in 1 hour chunks because you're having a hard time. That's fine. Or it's something where it's small. It's only going to take like 30 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But it's in a place that they really are having a hard time with. It's like, you can do this. It makes no sense to stop because it's such a small enough thing. Like, you can do it. So it's just kind of like pushing these people through to get it finished. And so usually the people who do have trouble and are having struggle, like on small stuff, it's you can get them through the finish line, use psychology, push them through. They can take their breaks if they want to, but there's only one other time where I did finish the tattoo, but I actually had made a reference to this earlier where it was a guy who wanted a tattoo. It was maybe like an hour 15 long tattoo. Started the outline. He's like, I think we just need to do the outline today and do the shading another day. It's like, well, this outline's going to take 15 minutes. Most of the tattoo is shading. Yeah. If you can't do a 15-minute outline, I didn't say this to him, of course, but I was more polite about it. But it's like, if you're really having this hard of a time for 15 minutes, how are you going to finish 40 minutes of shading? But okay, sure. And we did the outline, finished it, came back a few weeks later, did the shading. It was good enough. Yeah, he got through it, thankfully. But that was the only time I could think of where I've done a tattoo so far where it's like, it was broken up the sessions when it really didn't need to be. So, but then again, to go back to the very root of your question, I can tend to meander. There's only one time in 3 years since I've done my first tattoo, ever, where somebody's not finished it. So
to me, it's a little bit of a foreign world, and it's like, you mentioned breaking the seal, and for me, it's like, I'm like, what do I believe in enough to actually etch it onto my skin? And maybe that's not the way I should be looking at it, but I mean, I think tattoos mean different things to different people, so I think that's my breaking the seal, is like, what can I put on my skin that I believe in that much?
Well, because I mean, generally the way I say it is the first tattoo takes the longest to figure out. The second tattoo generally takes the shortest. Generally, I mean, everybody's different, of course, but that was not the case for me. The only reason why it was money was a big factor for me from getting my first and my second. I knew I wanted my second one after I got my first, but that just goes to show, it's like the first one, you don't know what you want because you don't even know if you like tattoos, really. You like the idea of tattoo, but you're like, maybe I'll get one, maybe I'll just get a couple, maybe I'll get a few. But the first tattoo, generally speaking, has a lot of meaning. Unless the people are just like, I already know I like traditional tattoos or whatever. I think a skull is cool. I think a dragon is cool. I think a dagger is cool. I want this. I like this style. I'm already invested. Pop it on, For the vast majority of people, it's like, if this was my only tattoo, would I be happy with it? Right? So, because, I mean, it's kind of the same thing like you're saying. Maybe these people think that they want to get multiple tattoos, but it's like, they don't know. So it's like, what do I want on my body forever? And if this ends up being my only tattoo, how would I feel if this was my stake in the sand, like my flag post, So then generally, after they get that, if they have more ideas, it's like, oh, okay, keep going. But generally the first tattoo takes a long time to figure out, and it has the most meaning for people. So
yeah, if someone were to want to see your work or to get a tattoo from you, is there a good way of contacting you?
Yeah.
Or?
There are 2 ways to do it. I mean, 3 ways, I guess you could do it. I work at New Life Tattoos in Champaign on Green Street. So, I mean, that is the simplest way. Come in. I mean, we have our physical portfolios there. I mean, but typically, I mean, to do it from home, I have Instagram as sort of my... tattooers use Instagram, right? So that's just sort of their online portfolio, online organic, ever-changing portfolio. So Instagram, the shop has a Instagram, New Life Tattoos, and my specific handle is Imperfect Medium, but that can be found through our shop Instagram as well if it's hard to figure out or whatever. But
I'll edit in the notes.
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah. Also, too, for those who don't have Instagram, I do have like a mostly updated portfolio on our shop's website of newlifetattoos.net. So there's a few different ways to see the kind of stuff that I do or get a hold of me. So
Vincent, thank you for coming on the show and telling me about your song Emma Lee off of the single Emma Lee Backed With Later, talking about your house venue, Casa de Sasha, creating tattoos and learning how to tattoo and why you got into tattooing. It's just been a real pleasure. Thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you for listening to Champaign is Also a Band podcast. This is Vincent Aguilar reminding you great music is out there. Go find it where you live.
That's a wrap.
You almost have an NPR voice. It's so good.
Studio South Bigger on the inside.